The Cardinals like horses. That's right, you read the title right. The St. Louis Cardinals like horses, but not just any horse. Contrary to popular belief, the Cardinals do not enjoy a good show horse. You know the Budweiser Clydesdales, who are owned by Anheuser-Busch, who also own the naming rights to Busch Stadium, the very stadium the Cardinals play in? Yeah, the Cardinals secretly love them. The Cardinals love a good workhorse that's willing to get down and dirty, willing to grind out that little bit of extra work, normally accompanied by a mangy mane. The Cardinals have always been a sucker for a good workhorse, with the best example being the noble steed Bob Gibson. No, not that Bob Gibson. The predecessor spent his entire career with the Cardinals, and while I could talk about the pure excellence of Gibson, who had an entire rule change to help nerf him,
water under the fridge now here.
As previously mentioned, the Cardinals aren't interested in any show horses. They're all about workhorses. Let's see how Gibson fits that description. Holy mackerel! He was throwing a complete game in 73% of his starts. If that doesn't make Gibson a Shire horse, I don't know what does. But that was the 60s. Baseball has changed. Pitchers are pitching less innings by the year. Surely the Cardinals had altered their strategy by the start of the new century. Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright are the franchise's most prominent pitchers since the turn of the century. Surely they didn't lead the league in innings or anything. Horse. But that was the early 2010s. Surely with a new manager, the Cardinals' priorities would have changed to morph to the times. And Miles Mikolas was fourth in innings last season despite having a 4.78 ERA. Surely we can see that opponents had a 919 OPS when facing Mikolas a third time. There had to be a better option.
Nope.
Oh, well, the Cardinals' entire pitching staff collapsed in 2023, and the Cardinals needed a Chad Clydesdale to just simply gobble up the innings remaining, and Mikolas was both the lucky and unlucky subject. But surely with pitching being the clear issue of the team, and the trend of workhorses slowly dying, the Cardinals would alter their strategy. And they signed 3 out of the top 23 pitchers in terms of innings last season. Okay, there has to be a rationale to this. Aside from Keenan Middleton, who is a solid relief option, the Cardinals made no significant additions to the bullpen. So what is the idea behind signing a trio of Dutch drafts and Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and Sonny Gray? Starting with Lynn, he put together a 2023 he would like to forget. Splitting time between the White Sox and Dodgers, Lynn had a 5.73 ERA and managed to give the most home runs of any pitcher in the majors. But most importantly, he pitched 183.2 innings, finishing 23rd in the majors. And that sort of inning total has followed him throughout his career, even back to his first stint with the Cardinals, where he was a 3.3 ERA type pitcher over 977 innings, even earning an All-Star appearance and winning a World Series with the squad in 2011. Lynn went through a plethora of teams after his departure from the Cardinals in 2017, with his most notable stops being in Texas and Chicago, where he was able to finish in the top 6 of Cy Young voting every season from 2019 to 2021. But most importantly, during that time, he led the league in innings during the 2020 COVID season. While it is reasonable to expect some sort of bounce back from Lynn in 2024, the range of what he gives the Cardinals is probably the biggest of any pitcher they sign. But if there is one thing for sure, the big man will get his innings. A slightly less big man who will get his fair share of innings next season for the Cardinals is former All-Star Kyle Gibson. Unlike Lynn, Gibson for the most part is a fairly known commodity. Since his debut in 2013 with the Minnesota Twins, Gibson has only been an above-average pitcher in terms of ERA plus 3 times. But at the same time, that's not what you bring in Kyle Gibson for. Despite his 4.73 ERA last season, he finished 12th in the majors in innings pitched. And that's sort of what Gibson is, just a consistent innings consumer that can be towards the back end of a rotation. However, the final pitcher of the Cardinals signings is not just an innings eater or a friendly face trying to make a career resurgence, but instead is supposed to be the headliner of this Cardinals staff. Sonny Gray was brought in for the Minnesota Twins on a 3-year, $75 million contract to be the ace this team needed. Last season, Gray looked the part for the Twins, finishing second in the American League Cy Young with a 2.79 ERA, striking out 9 batters per 9 innings, whilst walking 2.7, allowing a league best 0.4 home runs per 9 innings, and most importantly, pitched a total of 184 innings, putting him 22nd in the MLB last season. While I do not think he'll be quite as good in 2024, as I detailed in my 10 players who will regress in 2024 video, I know, shameless plug, to say this guy won't pitch well with the friendly confines of Busch Stadium would be a bit mad. The stadium is very good at denying extra base hits, which plays into Gray's hand even if he is due for some natural regression, particularly on the home run front. But what do the Cardinals do with a rotation of older workhorses? Sorry, gotta work on that. Well, it's hard to say. Cardinals are projected to finish first by Fangraphs in the NL Central, largely carried by their offense, spearheaded by Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Contreras. and that's a fairly reasonable projection. The Central is in a bit of a weird spot where it feels like you have a lot of teams trying to hold on to that top spot with the Cardinals and Brewers, while teams like the Cubs, Reds, and Pirates are all building something that could exploit the weaker division and sneak a division crown in there. However, every team in this division has their question marks, and horse gambling is definitely the biggest question mark for the Cardinals. Not only do they have a minimum 3 pitchers in their rotation with an ERA of 4.75 plus from last year, they're also trying to reverse trends and proven data that suggests starters should be pitching less and less. With a clear need at pitching across the board, it feels like the Cardinals tried to go cheap and mask 2 issues at once by getting solid pitchers who could go deep in the games to hide the team's mediocre bullpen. Sure, there is a world where the peak of all these players combine to actually form a pretty decent rotation, but even at that, I'm not sure is enough to make noise in the postseason. This team is built to win now. The age of their superstars are all on the wrong side of 30, and while they haven't showed a lot of regression, the day is unfortunately coming, and using full seasons to take flyers on aging veterans isn't the most optimal use of time. Maybe sometimes you need a few show horses.